Hey folks, it's Rebel Rousing Rich Bergeron.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Tornado Tony Pentagon.
And Psychic Tom will be connecting with us a little bit later. He's being the tax man tonight. He can only be the psychic part-time. His brain is being used for mathematical shit right now. His predictive powers are weakened under these circumstances. So, we'll see. Anyway, we'll talk about the UFC and all that when we get him on the show. But I want to start off with a couple boxing items. Number one, there's kind of an investigation. There's no confirmation yet. I don't have any video. But there's a fight over in the UK that they're talking about possibly being a fixed fight. Dave Allen's third-round knockout win over Dorian Darch on Saturday night. And it's not just because of what happened in the ring, but it's also because of suspicious betting activity. So what happened was the third-round stoppage for Allen was initially priced at 9-2 with William Hill, but was so heavily backed that it ended at evens. And it's understood that Sky Bet was the first bookmaker to notice a spike and alerted their competitors. So they basically figured out there was a fix with the betting activity somehow, and they stopped it by making it even odds. I don't even know how that's legal, but either way, crazy story.
Yeah, really.
But the guy who got dropped says no way. He says people were saying it was a fix because I was planning on it being a 6-round move around. A few of my mates had a lot of money on the points win and it didn't come in, but I am not the sort of guy who picks a round to win. I am not really good enough to do that. I'm a heavy-handed, hard bastard, and I caught him with a left hook and stepped off and he said, come on, so I attacked him to the body and put him over. I haven't lost or made any money on it. So, the guy who... No, that's the guy who won. The guy who lost said... should have chucked a couple quid on it myself if I knew. People are nuts. Get hit down once, get back up, get wobbled to my boots with a left hook, but still dull enough to try and act hard and pretend not to be hurt and call them on, and I've taken a dive. Brilliant. Just hard to get your head around. But I know being a journeyman is a job I got fuck all to gain by losing in a certain round. I can't bet myself. I'm a trying journeyman who got beat in round 3. If I would have covered up like a koala and lost on points, would that have been a fix? Anyway, Allen also, the guy who won again, said that the last thing I will say on this is the British Boxing Board and Gambling Commission are very welcome to contact me at their convenience and talk this through, and happy to answer all questions, and I hope they do this as soon as possible and put the matter to bed. So if you listen to these quotes, it doesn't sound like there was a fix. It sounds like the guy that lost just had a bad night, but stranger things have happened. Sometimes you can just make it look like a bad night. But it normally wouldn't be if you didn't have the bet swing that was going on. And we briefly discussed a little bit of a crossover story before we got on the air. Here's another one that involves a couple guys from down under. A Kiwi, Mark Hunt from New Zealand, and a guy named Paul Gallen, who's last seen in the boxing ring with a performance that ended in a draw with Barry Hall. I haven't heard too much about this Gallen guy, but Mark Hunt and Paul Gallen is being proposed as a boxing match. And it said that it would be one of the most explosive fights in Australian combat sports. Boxing promoter Matt Rose is looking to put this together. And UFC obviously has parted ways with Mr. Hunt because he sued the hell out of him and barely lost on the one count, but did lose. So, yeah, not on good terms with them. And they had raised so many issues with his brain trauma that I don't think any other organization would touch him. I think he passed all proper tests to compete and everything, but they had picked up on a couple quotes in an article where he said something about missing words and sentences and slurring speech sometimes. So they just crucified him and said he was damaged goods. And so this is going to be interesting. I think they'll make it. I think they'll do the fight. But I don't see Mark Hunt going into a boxing career. This is just a gimmick fight. But it'll be fun to watch. So he's sitting on a 13-14-1 record, and even though it's a different sport, that'll put him at 14 wins in combat sports. It'll be pretty good. Although he's probably got more with kickboxing and stuff. 10 of his 13 wins by knockout. Paul Gallen is 9-0-1 in the boxing ring, with his only blemish coming after the 57-57 draw to Hall, November 2019. All right. Also got a crazy story here. Elizabeth Smart. I don't know if you remember her story, but she was kidnapped years ago. And so what happened was she started doing work to help people in those situations and counsel kids. And so you know how there's a mantra I'm always mentioning, fact is stranger than fiction. So here's one situation where that came to life. She falls asleep, Elizabeth Smart, on an airplane. Wakes up to someone rubbing their hand on her leg. After she's already been through the ordeal she's already been through when she was 14. This happens just recently. So obviously she's shocked that somebody would do that to her. We probably didn't know who she was, but still. She says, the last time somebody touched me without my say-so was when I was kidnapped and I froze. I didn't know what to do. But this time she reported the incident to law enforcement and Delta Airlines, and they said, we took the matter seriously and have continued to cooperate with Miss Smart and the appropriate authorities as the matter is investigated. Corporate speak for we'll look into it. But since that incident, she has now created something she calls Smart Defense. A pretty great name, Can't beat that. That's her last name, too. And it's a self-defense program for women and girls. Program designed by mixed martial arts and law enforcement experts. Quote, empowers women and girls with confidence and self-defense skills to prevent, ward off, and fight back against sexual assault in a safe, controlled environment. And she's not sure if taking a class herself would have prevented her from being kidnapped as a teenager, but she said it would have given her confidence to try to run away. But this is the best quote of all. Ends the story. It says, we are not training assassins. We are trying to train them to give themselves an opportunity to get away. So, that's a good story there. Can't beat that. Giving back to the community. Alright. So, we had some boxing last week. I don't know how much you caught, Tony. I caught a little bit myself, believe it or not.
A little bit.
Guillermo Rigondeaux. I watched a little bit of his fight. And I got to tell you, he reminded me a little bit of Sugar Ray Leonard there. At least he was trying to act like him. But he was way more over the top against Laborio Solis. And just, cruised to the win. And just absolutely peppered the guy and made him look like an idiot.
I always felt negative when they did that fight.
But it was pretty much head movement and footwork that won him the fight.
Talented? but he's hard to get in the he's hard to build a following.
Oh, we're losing you.
I think that's been his drawback. Supremely, for some reason, he cannot build a following, and
Breaking up.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I was saying he's supremely talented. He's hard to build a following behind. I don't know if if his fights aren't competitive, if they're not back and forth enough, if there's, if he doesn't have the, way to connect with the audience. I don't know, but he just, like I said, I was tired. I fell asleep shortly before that fight started. But it's like his fights almost seem like carbon copies of each other.
Yeah. And I don't know. It's just he's got a reckless style. So I imagine that his handlers don't want to push him up to that world beater level yet because they're aware of that, and they want him to just keep building those wins against journeymen like Laborio Solis. But yeah, he's due. He's due for a little bit more of a challenge.
Point, especially when you're a two-game gold medalist, there's sometimes you need that mega fight.
Yeah. We also had Kell Brook beating our buddy Mark DeLuca. I did not get to watch that, but I did see the highlights, lowlights for DeLuca, obviously.
I knew it was on the zone, but I forgot to go over the pond that it was in the afternoon. So by the time I was on my computer, someone had posted that it had just been stopped in the 7th round, and they said it was more like a mercy stoppage than anything.
Well, I don't know. He got hit pretty hard. He was up by 9, but he got.
No, but they said he was taking a pretty good beating during the fight.
Right. Well, I watched. From what I watched, basically, what he did was sort of the opposite of what the guy in the main MMA fight last week did. We'll talk about later, but the Jon Jones versus Dominick Reyes fight. He basically would have had to win that fight. He would have had to circle that ring like there's no tomorrow, and use what he was scoring in the first couple rounds, which was his counters. He's a very good single counter puncher, and maybe a punch to the body and a punch to the head he'll land. He's very good at landing to the body, but he didn't get enough opportunities because he was covering up a lot. He was letting Kell Brook come to him, and he doesn't have like a dynamic, different, well mixed style. He just changes levels a lot, and he has very good defense. Those are his strengths. So you have to add something to that, and that's movement. And he backed up into the ropes a lot, let himself get caught, let himself just sit there and absorb punches and turtle up, and that takes a toll on you. And then your punches or your hands start to drop, and your punches don't have as much weight on them when you do land, and you do get that counter opportunity. And it was just a matter of experience and falling into traps and getting frustrated. Obviously, that was a big stage for him and a big opportunity, and he jumped on it. So you can't blame him for that at all. He gave a very good representation of his toughness and his heart, and kept getting up and did not quit at any second. It showed a true warrior spirit. But Kell Brook just showed that, hey, a little time off, a little perspective, a little bit of getting back to basics, and he could be dangerous again. Yeah, DeLuca is not any slouch to go 7 rounds with that kind of guy either. It shows promise for both fighters, I think, especially if DeLuca can really learn a lot from it. But really, like Guillermo's strength was, the footwork. Footwork could have saved DeLuca. Could have made it a little bit more entertaining, could have made it a decision, at least. Not that he would have felt any better losing a decision, but it would have been a tighter fight, I think, if he could have just circled the ring better and used his jab and just been at his range, really, because that was really the downfall. He was just never at his good range for long enough. and he was just landing one or two punches at a time. But it was definitely a good fight. It was definitely good. Good learning lesson for him, and for Kel, a good bounce back. I think it was like a 14-month layoff or something like that for him. Also, Niam Bayar, Tugstart there, got beat by Gary Allen Russell Jr. I didn't catch any of that. Kid Galahad beat Claudio Marrero last Saturday. Jamie Arboleda beating Jason Velez. You had Mary McGee beating Deanna Hobbs. What else we got there? Eva Wallstrom losing to Terry Harper on Saturday as well. I don't know if that was an upset or not. Also, Ferhat Arslan lost to Kevin Larina. We don't have a lot this weekend. We have actually more big fights on Friday than we do on Saturday. That's kind of a rarity.
Well, then Saturday's the big Lock Haven boxing show.
Oh, there you go.
They don't want to compete with that.
So you won't miss anything by going to that. Oh, here's an interesting name for a female. From Victoria, Australia. I just saw this now on Saturday. Fighting in Victoria. Susie Ramadan. I shit you not. Susie Ramadan at super flyweight. She is 27-3, fighting Gretel De Paz, who is 6-5-2. It might be the mismatch of the week there too. It's for a title too. The vacant women's IBA World Super Flyweight title. That's the only fight worth mentioning. Susie Ramadan. Sounds like a female superhero for Muslims. Susie Ramadan. Oh, here's one that could be the mismatch of the week from Limburg, Belgium, Saturday. Herve Hubo. He is 31-3-0. 31 wins, 3 losses. Fighting Pavlo Krolenko. Pavlo is only 3-4, so that is experience galore into the advantage there of Hervé. That's a heavyweight fight too. It's going to be really dangerous. Anyway, not a lot going on Saturday, as you can tell. Here's one from Chile. Jose Sanchez, 17-1, fighting Javier Jose Clavero, 27-6, for the vacant WBO Latino lightweight title. What else? And over in Bayern, Germany, light heavyweights Emil Markic, 30 wins, 2 losses, fighting Ferenc Albert, who's 27-17. And the co-main event, Jessica Shadko, 7-0 versus Borislava Goranova. Wow, how many fights this girl has. 11 wins, 61 losses, and 4 draws. We found the woman opponent here. And I'd like to fight this guy, my next fight. Radovan Petrovic. He's on the undercard. He's 0-23. He's fighting Sammy Raid Musa, who's 12-1. Yeah, there's mismatches all around on that one. Wow. You got one in there.
Rich, before we forget, you know what I just got the notice on yesterday was perennial 90s heavyweight banger James Thunder. Jimmy Thunder passed away.
Oh, really? I think I did see something.
Yeah, he was 54, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, he was, like I said, his final record was 35-14. He had the record on USA's Tuesday Night Fight for the fastest knockout, which was a 12-second knockout of Crawford Grimsley. I think that was back in maybe 97-ish. They both came out, they exchanged right hands, thunders landed, Grimley went down, and 10 seconds later, the fight was over. But the more upper echelon guys, he generally lost. You guys like your Chris Birds and your guys like that. But he was always entertaining to watch. Tusk always gave you a good show, so, man, he rest in peace.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the oldies but goodies. Alright. So Friday. Thursday the 13th today. Friday the 14th tomorrow. The big day of love. And we got a love story at the end of the fight card too. They got a great fight name for 14th of February. We're going to start off in Canada. Cruiserweights. Ryan Rozicki. He's 11-0. That's Tom. All right. Tom, we're ready for your call. All right. Well, yes, we'll connect in a minute here. All right. There he is. Okay. Great timing. He got to sit out most of the boxing. So anyway, as I was saying, Ryan Rozicki, he's 11-0, fighting Vladimir Reznicek, 9-2 for the WBC International Silver Cruiserweight title there. WBO Asia Pacific Super Flyweight title on the line in Tokyo. Froilan Saludar, 31-3-1, fighting Ryoji Fukunaga with 11-4. And the big card is from the Honda Center, Anaheim, California. We got Jorge Linares, 46-5, fighting Carlos Morales, who's 19-4 with 4 draws. Also, Ryan Garcia, undefeated, 19-0, fighting Francisco Fonseca, 25-2-2. WBC silver lightweight title on the line there. Welterweight Alexis.
All right.
All right.
Here we go.
We're just finishing up the Valentine's Day boxing schedule here, and we're going to get right into the MMA next. Tom, perfect timing.
All right.
We're gonna do one boxing story with you though, because I sat on a conference call today with Tyson Fury.
And then we also, I don't know if we've discussed the Kell Brook fight with our former guest.
We did.
We were discussing that. Did you get to see it, Tom?
I just seen a few highlights. Man, just my take on it is Mark fought his heart out.
Yeah.
And it's got to be so depressing. There's an old cliche, there are levels to this game.
Yeah.
And the question now is he going to be content with, being a top 20 guy? And only he can answer that, because I can only imagine what he's going through, because he looked in great shape today.
Oh yeah, he was definitely pumped,
yeah, and I know he
ready to go. He looked very relaxed before the fight, but as I was talking to Tony about earlier, I think his major downfall was just not having the right movement. He should have used the whole ring. He should have bounced out of those situations instead of turtling up and taking a lot of punches, and that just wore him down without it being visible, but it caught up to him. And I'm just watching the highlights, you could see that. Like, he was landing a lot of good counters when he needed to, but there wasn't enough power around it because he wasn't moving, and he didn't catch him off guard or at a bad angle. He was just standing straight at him, toe to toe.
Yeah, and it seemed to me it was a more devastating loss than a quick knockout.
Yeah.
Because a quick knockout, okay, I just got caught. I just hadn't got going. I was so sorry. But this was a systemic disaster.
Yeah.
And it was just painful. Just awful painful. I mean, he's such a good guy. I'm not trash talking Kell Brook either. Not saying he's a bad guy, but for Mark, he's really at a crossroads. And he said, I can only imagine that, because I know he had dreams, and had he got past Brook, he's right in the mix. And now, getting knocked back down, it's going to be tough.
Right.
It's tough.
So, but like I said, I forgot that the fight was over in England. So it was like, mid-afternoon on DAZN. Of course, you don't see it. Like, when I get my, Philadelphia paper, and you look on the back page of sports, it'll say, okay, televised sports today. Well, it doesn't, consider the apps. So you don't see the ESPN Plus. You don't see the DAZN on there. You're basically seeing stuff like the regular ESPN, back in the day, HBO, Showtime. So it's like, next thing I'm like, I remember because we talked about the fight last week, and then I'm on Facebook, and it's like, man, Kell Brook with a 7th round TKO over a game, but badly outclassed Mark DeLuca. They said DeLuca, was really taking a lot of punishment before the fight was stopped, and I'm like, oh, man. So, I mean...
Yeah, and boxing 24/7 was just brutal in the coverage, as were the comments. And, it's just a...
I'm sure he'll pick up the pieces.
I mean, it is what it is.
Get back at it. But, I also kind of pointed out he's probably not one to disagree himself. He's not a very dynamic-styled fighter. He's very a basic approach, fundamental type fighter. And when you're dealing with a guy like Kell Brook, who has different experience, he's fought in a completely different environment than DeLuca, and has almost always in the last 5 or 6 years fought guys that, were top 10 or better.
World class. Whereas Mark was regional class, possibly could have got to national class, but not world class. And had he won this, I mean, that's where this was.
Yeah, it would have been a home run hit, or grand slam. Really, that was kind of the odds that he was facing. Bottom of the 9th, 2 outs, 2 strikes, grand slam. That's what it would have been. And I think he knew that going in. He knew that he was going to be not only the underdog, but the odds-on favorite to lose. But you got to take those opportunities.
Has he said anything? I don't know if he's on Facebook. Has he said anything about, or is he just...
well, actually, the last thing I saw from him, believe it or not, was a message saying, I'm sorry for all the people trying to add me, but I already have a friend limit. So I'm on his friends list, so I guess I'm lucky. I'm still there. He hasn't cut me off, but... Yeah, so he's probably actually getting a lot of encouragement worldwide now that he wouldn't have gotten otherwise if he hadn't taken this fight. Because people, boxing fans and everybody like that, they're not going to bash the guy. They're not going to get down on him. They're going to see a performance like that and highlight his heart, highlight his ability to keep going, and even when the fight was over.
Exactly. I mean, courage, toughness, determination. And, Brooks, it reminds me of when Kerry Daniels was talking to him about when he fought Floyd Patterson. Now, this is after Floyd Patterson had been stopped twice by Liston, had a career almost, he'd lost twice to Jerry Quarry. He had what could have been a career-ending beating against Muhammad Ali, and yet he still was full of tricks.
Yeah.
And like Terry was telling me, he said it was not really the big things Floyd did, but the little things in boxing, that a world-class fighter can pull off. The little tiny move that'll move you an inch closer. Just an inch. And in boxing, an inch is a lot.
Right.
And Kell Brook just is at that level. And but, I know Mark's a tough guy, and he may want to just hang on and just see what's left of his career and go from there, but...
Oh, I'm sure he'll get opportunities galore because of that, just being on that stage. It's a different stage for him, He's been on ESPN and stuff here, but that is the world stage, really. And, they imported him for a reason. They wanted to show that he could beat a tough guy on his first fight back from hiatus. So it's not an insult to him.
And maybe Mark... and maybe Mark will improve. I mean, because I know mentally he did not impress me as the kind of guy that was a quitter, and he proved it in that fight.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people after the first couple of rounds would say, you know, what the F am I doing in here? I mean, I don't belong in here. But there was none of that. None of that. So, all the best for him. Hopefully, he can string some wins together. We can get him back on again.
Yeah. Tony, in your neck of the woods, we got some Friday night fights going on Showbox, actually, coming to Pennsylvania for the Philly 2300 Arena. 15-1 Thomas Matisse at lightweight. He's got one draw, fighting Isaac Cruz Gonzalez, who's 18-1 in the main event. And we got a couple somebody's O's got to go fights. I'm going to go with the co-main event last because it's kind of a funny one. Reyes Alim, he's 15-0, fighting Adam Lopez, 19-3-2 at super bantamweight. And then here's one of the somebody's O's got to go fights. Derek Coleman, Mon like Jamaica Mon. He is Derek Coleman Jr. He's 11-0, fighting Joseph Jackson, who is 15-0. Not the Joseph Jackson who's Michael Jackson's father. I don't think so. It's not him.
I needed that. This has been a brutal day. I really did. I forgot that name.
Here's the big one. It's not this. It is the city of brotherly love, but there's a fighter here called Montana Love, 12-0-1 in the co-main event, fighting Jericho Walton, who is 16-0. So there's your somebody's always got to go fight. Montana Love sounds like a soap opera character, right? from the Wild West. All right, so we got to talk about the elephant in the UFC room now, and we're gonna have Joe Rogan at the end of the Jon Jones versus Dominick Reyes fight introduce us to this segment right here. A good old play. Come on.
So very close to wresting the title away from Jon Jones. If you're all curious, that dissenting judge, Joe Solis, he who had the wayward Andre Ford 30-27 scorecard earlier tonight, he was the judge who had this 4-1, 49-46 for Jon Bones Jones. So certainly rounds 4 and 5, undisputed for Jon Jones, but
my situation is I can't be mad at this decision because of how close it was. The one thing I will say, though, is Joe Solis should have your judging card revoked to go call that 4-1. I don't know what he's been seeing tonight, but at least his name gets to be put on blast because he's not doing a very good job, in my opinion. But I'm not the judge. So when we look at this was a great fight, and I can't be mad at the decision because of how close it was. And I do see Jones winning 4 and 5, and those are the championship rounds, and you want to decidedly win to beat the champion, but he did get outstruck in the first 3.
That's the same guy that gave Andre Ewell the decision earlier tonight against Jonathan Martinez, which is just ridiculous. That was another fight that just made no sense to any of us. It makes me angry. We've talked about it so many times. It's less of an issue in some commissions where they've dealt with combat sports, particularly the MMA, longer. But I can't argue about this enough. I can't get angry enough. I've done it so many times. For anyone to think that was 4-1 Jon Jones, that person's insane. They're insane. Dominick Reyes put on a hell of a fight tonight. And to disrespect that performance, but that kind of judging is insane.
So, yeah, I would have to agree there.
First off, Rich, did you see the whole fight?
Yes, I actually fell asleep when it was live after round 1. I just fell asleep.
Oh, there's melatonin brownies. I gave you an idea for that.
Yeah.
Melatonin brownies.
But I had to watch it before the show, so I went on the sharing sites, and I think I can't say I saw the whole entire fight. I think I saw half of round 3, most of round 3 maybe, and then none of round 4. All of round 5. And after watching both of the first 2 rounds, I'd say Reyes won both of those rounds, hands down. The third round, I couldn't really judge because I didn't see the whole thing, but it looked like Reyes was winning most of that.
Yeah.
But Jon Jones could be right, too, when he said in the post-fight interview that the takedowns might have been the difference. because I've seen that in action at an MMA fight. It was a local circuit fight, and I was sitting right next to the judge. And he was the one that made the difference in the fight. It was a very close fight going into the third round, final 30 seconds, and the kid's corner is screaming for him to get a takedown, and I'm like sensing this kid, just all he needs is to finish that takedown, and he was going to win the fight. And I said it out loud. He gets this takedown, he wins this round, he wins the fight. I said it right out loud in front of the guy, and sure enough, as soon as the round ends, he gets the takedown, and the dude next to me writes 10-9. But fight got decided on a single takedown.
Well, I think a lot of the outrage was that 4-1.
Yes.
And the fact that same judge had 2 other early scripts, which I didn't see because none of the other early fights interested me that much. And this kind of reminded me of the first Jones-Gus fight. That it was so damn close. And I will say, just to play devil's advocate with a lot of the outrage, there is an old adage in the fight game that to beat the champ, you have to take that belt.
Exactly.
Take it. I want no question. And you could say that I would agree with you. Well, I had Jones slightly ahead in the second round and Reyes in the third. But, again, it was so close. You could easily have Reyes up for 3, and I think the last 2 rounds, I'm not a Jones fan, but I had to go with what I seen. But it was so close. This 4-1 nonsense. I have no idea what that judge was seeing. Yeah. And if he wouldn't have made these errors before, and I'll say this much: the Jon Jones aura of invincibility. He's not stopping everyone like in his early days. If you can go back to the what he would do when he won the title against Shogun Rua, that was a street mauling. What he did to Lyoto Machida, that was another mugging. You seen how Machida collapsed, and he was a destroying machine. You see, nobody stopped Daniel Cormier. He did. The only guy outside of Stipe that did it. But we're not seeing that as much now, especially with taller guys. He didn't stop OSP, and OSP is, I don't know, maybe he's a top 10 guy at best, lower top 10, no disrespect, but it seems like that reach advantage means so much for him, and when that's taken.
Well, I did notice in this one, he really didn't do much of his spinning attacks at all. He pretty much stood in one place or moved very little and took advantage of the fact that Dominick Reyes was running all over the ring. I mean, literally wearing himself out with his movement. And, that was a good strategy that was working early on, but, by the third, fourth round, he had no gas to really throw hard punches. But really, like we said, we predicted it dead on. We said if it ends in the first round, it's going to be Reyes, right? And Reyes could have ended it in the first round if he wasn't in the back of his mind probably thinking, Jesus Christ, if this goes 5 rounds and I blow my wad in the first, I'm going to be screwed. But he had Jon Jones in trouble enough to knock him out. And probably a good... And remember what I said. 1 minute, probably, of round 1. 1 minute total in different spots, but a good 1 minute at a time. He had the opportunity where he could have put his foot on the gas and knocked Jon Jones out if he really didn't let the thought of going 5 rounds get into his head. Because you go 5 rounds with Jon Jones, he will adjust. Go ahead. Sorry.
Right, and I told you, this is going to not be a deep day for Jones. I just could sense that. And in the first round, needless to say, I mean, me and the dogs were all excited. Even they could sense it. And, I think, too, the ridiculous commentary. It was, I know their company, man. I know they draw their paycheck from the UFC. I know Jon Jones is a UFC fighter. He's the man. But it was like, well, Jones is putting on pressure. Pressure? Well, yeah, he's moving forward, but I've seen pressure, then I've seen effective pressure.
Yeah, right.
I can think of a guy from Philly, Tony, who put effective pressure on. His name was Smoking Joe Frazier.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's what they call effective pressure on him. Yeah, he's coming forward like a oncoming train. That's pressure. What I seen Saturday night was not really effective pressure that much. And it just, and then Reyes is exhausted. Well, so was Jones. You've seen Jones's face. And I knew, I've seen the bias commentating before, but that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never heard it slanted that much. Again, I'd like to see a replay and see if I still have, when I wasn't quite as emotional about it, but it's like, my God, yeah, we get it. We get it. You got your knee pads on, guys. Okay, we understand. Now call the fight. Jesus.
Well, the judging was so bad.
And I think that produced a lot of...
The judging was so bad, and Rogan complained so much about it that Texas actually had to come out with a response. The Texas Department of Licensure and Regulation.
Yeah, Lawrence Cole and Dickie Cole. I figured they were involved in it. Because, you know, we've been Dickie Cole and Lawrence Cole for how many generations now?
Yeah,
Good God. But the only sports that have to put up with this kind of stuff.
They said in selecting ringside
I know
officials,
there's bad calls in the NFL and the major leagues, but not like this.
they said, as with all events, TDLR works closely with the UFC and other promoters to ensure the quality and experience of referees and judges to protect the health and safety of the fighters. But they also, another clarification was made in this article about something I've mentioned on the show before, to probably or possibly eliminate some of these issues with, the story we always talk about, which fight was he watching when the judge gets it wrong. And I said repeatedly on this show, maybe judges should have a monitor so that they can see stuff if they have like a blockage and they're not in a good angle to see the action. Maybe they should have a monitor. So now, lo and behold, this has never been reported as far as I know. It's the first time I've seen it in this article. This guy from the commission says, claims have been made that a judge was not paying attention to the fight and was looking down at the floor. One of the advances that UFC has made in the past several years has been to provide a small video monitors below the floor level of the octagon for each judge to more closely monitor matches. Oh, so how did I not know this? It's several years.
They've been listening.
I guess so.
They've been listening, buddy. Our reach is farther than we think. There's a psychic connection there from the three of us sending it out into the universe.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I guess I wasn't the only one on that wavelength.
Well, anyways, all I can say is, Jones was actually pretty gracious. And he did his plans up in the air now, but even he said he probably, this may delay his rise up to heavyweight. Yeah. And again, it may speak, maybe he feels Reyes has his number. And I think Reyes coming back the next time around is probably going to think just like you did, Rich. Going to say, shouldn't have worried about blowing my wad.
Yeah, I thought his answer, too, to Joe Rogan about what's next was a little bit odd, because most fighters would say, obviously in boxing it's a little different, but your typical answer to that question of what's next, it's up to my management usually is what you say. But Jon Jones goes, oh, it's up to what my coaches want. It's like, I never heard that before. Like, you're going to put it all in the hands of your coaches. You're not, whatever the UFC wants me to do, whoever I want to put in front of me, I'm going to put it at the feet of my coaches, whatever they tell me to do. It's like, really? You're that much of a slave to Albuquerque?
I'm thinking about that because Greg Jackson is one of the most insightful thinkers. And he knows about styles making fights, and maybe they don't really want a rematch with Reyes. But I think they may be overlooked because Dana made some comments about it also. Yeah. And I know that the underground, I think they've, I don't know if you've been on the underground much lately, but I think they've done something to stop these crashes. Because it used to be, on things like this, there'd be so many comments that the whole site would crash. And I think they've done more now. But, the hardcores were super upset.
Geez, I used to haunt the Sure Dog forums, the underground all the time, but that was only when I was trying to promote my Zion stories. It's been such a long time that I've gone on there. But I am going to put together another one pretty shortly here. Just clearing up space to do it. But not a Zion story, but a Fertitta story. Because the Fertittas now, they're in kind of a weird position. They're losing, I think, a lot of money with their casinos and their gamble there with the Palms. They did like $600 million worth of renovations, and the old thing with them and the UFC, the culinary union was always trying to stick their nose into what the UFC was doing just to punish the Fertittas because they wanted to unionize their casinos. So now the culinary union is so powerful. It's all you hear about when they talk about the caucuses and the politics in Nevada is the culinary union and how they're going to vote. So they've become so powerful. They're making progress in court against station casinos. They've unionized the majority of the station casinos' properties. And the Fertittas now have to report everything because they're public. So it's just the ultimate nightmare for them. I think they're shitting bricks, and I think they want out. I think they're going to try to get out of the whole thing. I have even heard rumors that they're going to sell everything but 2 of the casinos and just keep the Palms that they just bought and renovated, and Palace Station, which their father created from nothing, basically. But yeah, crazy story. And there's actually a big piece in the Chicago Tribune that threw some shade on some people that the Fertittas were involved with years ago that are part of my ZionSucks.com website. But yeah, it's some pretty interesting stuff. And also the Los Angeles Raiders will be coming to Vegas next year. It'll be their first full season. So there's that angle too. I'm pretty sure I don't brag about myself a lot, but I will tell you, I'm pretty sure that I'm the reason why the Fertittas do not currently own the Las Vegas Raiders. I had a conversation that lasted a week, basically, with a guy from Los Angeles, from a private investigator firm, who said that they were doing a big investigation to suss out whether they were going to do business with the Fertittas. And he wouldn't really go any further than that, but they never do, especially when it's a big thing like that. And there was a similar call by an investigative reporter guy right before the Fertittas sold off the UFC, so just saying. Yeah, so it's just one of those things. Like I haven't really done a lot of reporting on them, but I've continuously kept up on all the stories and news events, and I get the Google alerts about them and all that. And just seems like there's a lot of stuff stacking up against them right now. And the latest story I've seen is that they've actually put it out there that they're going to be selling land to pay down debt. And the first time they went bankrupt, right after the Science Finagle situation fiasco, was because of them getting into ridiculous amounts of debt. And one of the sacrifices they made by fucking with the culinary union for so many years is they pissed off the Democrats. And that's one of those things that could be a make or break deal for them, because pushing against the culinary union led to a situation with all these renovations. There was something like $600 million worth of renovations they did to the Palms Casino after they bought it. And it was all supposed to be protected or impacted by tax write-offs. They were supposed to get these big tax breaks that the Democrats would have to approve of. So they shot themselves in the foot there, because the unions are a big Democratic interest, as we know. But anyway, getting back to the fights here, the good stuff. Co-main event the other night was pretty good too. It was a little bit quicker of an end, but Valentina split her open. Caitlin Chikugian it's just basically had a halfway decent first round. Didn't get too much damage, but then the second and third round just got totally outclassed and just buried, basically. Those elbows just cut her right open. Elbows and punches ended it at 1 minute and 3 seconds into the third round. And then we had...
Kyrgyzstan strikes again. The stand.
Yeah. Valentina. She is no joke.
She's a stand lady. Bet on the stands.
The only big mistake she made was she didn't quite land her flip there at the end in celebration. She didn't land that perfectly, but everything else went smashing.
No, nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect. Run for some slack. Come on.
And then a fight I enjoyed a lot watching, the two big boys, the two couch surfing dudes, Justin Taffa and Juan Adams, coming in there looking like Homer Simpson and slugging it right out.
Adams, I mean, there's just one too many trips to the buffet.
Yeah.
Man, you just kind of knew that's like a couple of, I don't know what you'd even call it, what kind of vehicles would crash into each other. A couple of Volkswagen buses, maybe. My God, what a...
And if Justin Taffa ever went out on the town with Mark Hunt, they would think they were brothers, I would think. But he's obviously a big hero.
Powerful puncher, though. Powerful puncher. Yeah, I mean, don't let him hit you.
And
a lot of power with that guy.
Juan Adams came out there. I think he was from the he's from the Contender Series. He was all hyped up and excited, fighting in front of the home crowd, and he got folded like a piece of laundry real quick. 1 minute and 59 seconds in. And I mean, it wasn't really like out cold, type of knockout, but boy, talk about a bruised ego. Juan was very upset with himself. Hardly could be consoled after that one. That was a big letdown for him, because it was basically one mistake, a big uppercut, and it was over.
With the big boys, that's all it takes.
Yep. And then we had Dan Ige beating Merced Bektik by a split decision. It wasn't a very popular one there. Derek Lewis over Ilir Latifi. They did get that one right. That was a unanimous decision. He did pretty well there. And here was one that was a little bit odd for me. I did watch this because it was... I didn't even know this was going to happen because it was a last-second edition. I think it was 24 hours notice. Our former guest, the James Krause, lost a tough one, very tough one, to Trevin Giles. And Giles just beat his ass one round of the fight, second round. But first round, Krause had his back almost the entire first round.
Should have had
working submissions.
Should have had him. You gotta salute Giles for staying around, because Krause has a highly advanced ground game.
Yeah, and then the third round
it was over. I don't see how Giles came through.
Yeah, the third round, Giles just had nothing left, and all of a sudden Krause was, I mean, he was gassed out too, but he was landing the better punches and coming forward, and I mean, I think it was the best fight of the night, other than the main event.
What do you think? Do you think there was some home cooking there? What do you think?
Oh, probably, yeah. I mean, Krause, obviously, being on short notice, was expected to lose, but he definitely could have won that fight. I mean, if you had one different judge, he definitely would have won that fight. And then you had
decision. Krause is just—he's so experienced and so relaxed and so professional, because he was really up against it in that second round. I don't know how he made it through, but that's experience. Tough guy.
Yes, sir. We had Lauren. My name is Lauren Murphy, beating Andrea Lee. It was also somehow controversial. I don't know why, but I did read that there was controversy attached to that fight for some reason. But there was a decision, obviously, a split decision. Maybe that's where the controversy came from, but I didn't watch that one. I just missed that one. I started watching at the James Krause mark there, first round. Kalen Williams before that knocked out Alex Morono by punches, 27 seconds in. That was a quick one. Miles Johns got TKO'd by a flying knee and punches, 1 minute and 41 seconds into round two by Mario Bautista. Third fight of the night, Journey Newson beating Domingo Pilarte by TKO, 38 seconds in. And then this one, another split decision. This is the one that Joe Rogan was talking about. Andre Ewell over Jonathan Martinez. And I did not see it, but this was definitely one of the ones that Joe was pissed about. And it kind of reminded me of Teddy Atlas, but just not as mad when he pulled that thing at the last second after the Jon Jones fight. First fight of the night, Yusuf Zalal over Austin Lingo by unanimous decision. And then, We got a couple more stories, and then we'll talk about my big phone call today with Tyson Fury. Corey Anderson against Jan Blachowicz this weekend at UFC Fight Night 167. Saturday night at Rio Rancho, New Mexico, the Santa Ana Star Center. And guess who's also back in the co-main event? Diego Sanchez against Michael Pereira. But anyway, main event, Corey Anderson, 13-4, but don't let the 4 losses fool you. He is on a tear, and he is looking dangerous lately. He's very dynamic and very committed and intense. I mean, the intensity in this guy is unreal right now. He's fighting Jan Blachowicz, so I believe he already beat. So I don't know why they're redoing this one, but he's 25-8, and this one could be a little different if Blachowicz goes at it with a different approach. But I don't know. I think it's going to be the same result, maybe just quicker. Diego comes in 29-12 against Pereira, who's 23-10. And we got Devin Clark 10-4 against Daquan Townsend, 21-10. Another Montana De La Rosa, 10-5, fighting Mara Romero Borella, 12-6. We got Brock Weaver, 14-4, fighting Rodrigo Vargas, 10-3. Yancy Medeiros, 15-6, fighting Lando Venata, 10-4-2. Tim Means on the card, 7th fight of the night, 29-11-1, fighting Daniel Rodriguez, who's 10-1. And the speedy John Dodson back on the card. He's 20-11, fighting Nathaniel Wood, who's 16-3. And the guy's been around quite a while. Jim Miller, 31-13, fighting Scott Holtzman, who's 13-3. And we got Ray Borg, 12-4, fighting Rogerio Bontorin, 16-1. Casey Kenny, 13-1-1, fighting Merab Davalishvili, who's 9-4. Second fight of the night, Shayna Young, 7-2, fighting Macy Chiasson, 5-1. Mark De La Rosa in the opening bout. He is 11-3, fighting Rolian Paiva, who is 18-3. And finally, the French have agreed to fight in MMA. It took them a long time, you know. They've had a lot of surrenders, but now they are going to fight. Another hurdle has been cleared in the quest to get MMA legalized in France. The French National Olympic and Sports Committee gave its approval to the French Ministry of Sports decision for the MMA to be legalized. For MMA to be legalized under the initial jurisdiction of the French Boxing Federation. So, it's going to be legalized. Path is clear. International Mixed Martial Arts Federation President Kerith Brown explained the importance of the decision, saying, "The official announcement is a crucial step on the path to creating a dynamic MMA structure in France. IMMAF will continue to supply constructive support and advice to all the MMA stakeholders." So there it is. We're going to see UFC France next time. And then today, I don't have any clips selected, but we do have on Spreaker, and if you look on my Facebook page for Fight News Unlimited, you'll see the link on our Spreaker, to our Spreaker show. I did a separate show just for the conference call, and I got everything on the recording but the very beginning intro. So I got a little bit of Bob Arum's remarks, Tyson Fury's opening, and then the rest of the phone call. And I got to tell you, he sounds not only very confident, but committed to knocking Wilder out this time, which is pretty bold.
Danger, danger, danger. That's a dangerous thing.
I'm exactly what I was thinking. Exactly what I was thinking. Because, you know what, it's like you come in there with like a game plan, right? And you want to do something spectacular. That's great, but that puts you in, the danger area. And granted, okay, it's a movie. But if you remember in Rocky II, Apollo won the first fight, but it was close. A lot of people thought he lost. Now they're going for the rematch, and he's so committed to scoring the knockout that even when he's miles ahead, he's standing toe-to-toe, and then he eventually gets knocked out.
Yeah. And the old Teddy Atlas saying, maybe you are better at your opponent at his game, but why are you giving his best and possibly his only chance to win? Why are you giving him that? Because you got something to prove. Maybe Fury can knock Wilder out. Wilder is vulnerable early on. But damn, you're going into that right hand, and no one has been able to withstand it yet.
Right. And here's the thing. If you go back and you look, if you look at, especially the last few Deontay Wilder fights, take out the one-round knockout over Dominick Reyes out of there, where he just bombarded him with a right hand and it was lights out. When you look at those fights, and you have 2 fights with Luis Ortiz, and then you have the fight with Tyson Fury in there. If you look at those fights, basically Wilder lost almost every round of those fights.
Yes.
The fight with Ortiz, he lost like the first 5 rounds, and then he scored a knock the 5th or 6th. Then he was weak again, and he was out on his feet. It looked like he was so close to getting stopped, and the referee might have given him a break with a long delay between the rounds, having the doctor look at him, and then he was still losing, and then he scores the knockout. So of 10 rounds, he likely lost at least 7, maybe 8 of them. Then you had the Tyson Fury fight, which a lot of people thought he lost 10 of the 12 rounds. The only 2 rounds that he clearly won were rounds that he scored knockdowns, but he gets the lucky draw. Then you go back, second Ortiz fight, and I think it was a 7th round knockout. He was down 6 rounds to nothing.
I had him winning 1, and most, I think the judges agreed he won 1 round. Okay, but you're right, Tony. He was light years behind, and he probably wasn't going to win a decision if things didn't change dramatically. So,
right.
I don't understand. And Fury was interviewed, and someone brought up that point about danger, and he said, well, this is a dangerous business. Yeah, well, no shit. Of course it is. We know that.
One of the best quotes he had on the call was when he talked about how he took the hardest punches in the heavyweight boxing history in his eyes, and he rose like a phoenix from the ashes.
Yeah.
So
yes, he did. But
in his head,
what's the after effect of that, though? That's what we don't know. I mean, his entire nervous system had to be short-circuited.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and next time around,
I remember a fight where a fighter, the punch knocked him out, and the ground woke him up. You had fights, Larry Holmes, Ernie Shavers. Perfect example. Tommy Morrison, Razor Ruddock in the 6th round. Morrison landed a monster left hook, and Ruddock, his whole body flailed, his arm shot up in the air, and he hit the ground. And on his way down, he was out. The ground woke him up. Larry Holmes won all those snipes. 2 times with Larry Holmes, he was actually out from the punch, and the ground, or in the Snipes case, the corner cushion that he face planted into kind of jolted him.
Yeah, I'll never forget that. That was like in my party days, me staggering out of my neighborhood.
Yeah, all I can think about every time I think of that, the way that Tyson got up from that Wilder punch was, it's like, somebody had given him a shot of epinephrine or something, or friggin' adrenaline. Like Pulp Fiction, when they stabbed the guy with the needle in the heart. Because not only did he get up, but he came at Deontay after that. Like, he had some new sense of energy. And I really believe there was a rush of adrenaline to his head, because I've had the same thing happen to me when I got hit in the face with a branch that I was cutting, logging, and it knocked my helmet right off, and I kind of went into shock. I looked in the bathroom mirror, dabbed my lip that was cut, and then sat down and passed right out. Fell face first in the snow for about 30 seconds before I came out and opened my eyes and got up. And then when I got up, I had all the energy in the world, so I know exactly what that feels like. It's just a basic adrenaline rush when your head just kind of sends the chemicals to counteract the experience that you just went through.
And see, that's what makes this yeah, that's what makes this fight so intriguing. I mean, I keep going back and forth, and I'll get on one side, but then I'll go on the other, and it's fascinating.
And there's two other reasons.
But I'll say this much. This has an old school feel.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait for it. Really.
And I'm starting to put everything together on we're starting to write a preview up on it. You look at it two ways. I think sometimes you have a fight and you see an outcome. And I'll tell you, one of the first ones that when I really started doing this was back in 2007. And there were two fights that I roundly got criticized on. One of them was Kelly Pavlik and Jermaine Taylor, the first fight. And Pavlik had just knocked out Edison Miranda, and Taylor had a very lackluster win over light punching Corey Spinks. And I'm like, Taylor got rocked in that first Bernard Hopkins fight, and he's gun shy. I can just sense it. And I said, in this Pavlik fight, he was going to get knocked out. And a couple people blasted me on that one. Blasted me. And then Taylor knocks Pavlik down, and then I think I called it maybe like the 8th or 9th round, and I think it might have ended in the 7th. There was another one I got blasted on was Joe Calzaghe and Roy Jones. And Jones, I'm like, no, Jones is too much past his prime, and I had seen it in a few fights. I'm like, he is not the same guy that he was. This was like late 2008 maybe, early 2009. I'm like, no, Jones has been shown that he's shop worn the past 3 years. And I said, this is the fight where Calzaghe is just going to outwork him. I didn't think Calzaghe would bust him up like that and cut him like that. But, you get strong visions on certain fights, really strong ones. This one, I have a vision. Like, now, the first fight, I had a vision of a Wilder knockout. I was like, Fury's been out of the game. He's gotten out of shape. He's been distracted. He's been battling all these demons. And the thing that I kept seeing in my mind was Steve Cunningham, longtime cruiserweight champ out of Philadelphia, who was relatively a light puncher at cruiserweight, throwing a right hand and knocking Fury down.
Yeah, we all talked about that to Steve.
Yeah, and I just, man, if Wilder lands that shot, it's over. He's going to knock him out. And I just kept saying, no, Wilder's going to knock him out. Now, that night, I was working, and then I had to work 2 parties that night, so I didn't get home until the fight had already started. So I was just following it on a blog tracker, and it was like, Fury's moving, Fury's landing shots, Fury's boxing him, Fury's outworking him, Wilder can't set his feet. And I'm like, no, this isn't right. This is wrong. And then, Wilder screws a knockdown, but Fury's up immediately, and Fury's back doing this, and another round for Fury, and I'm like, holy shit. And then 12th round, Fury's down. This fight looks to be over. Oh, my God, he's not. He's up. And he's winning. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And then it was like one of those fights where you just had the feeling that it was going to be a draw, and it turned out to be that way. So it was like now, it's like, I see Fury, if he is, using that foot movement for a 6'9", 260-some-pound guy, he moves well. If he's using that foot movement and, using them angles, he can, make Wilder look at it. If he's using that upper body movement and making Wilder miss punches, he can make Wilder really miss wildly. But if he stops for 1 second, and Wilder has a great quote, he goes, to beat me, you got to be perfect for 12 rounds. Yes, I only got to be perfect for 1 punch.
Right.
And that's a great quote, and it's a guy that maybe is in love with his power, but at the same time, you are dependent on something that if you can't land, you might be in trouble.
Yeah, and is the psychological warfare on Tyson Fury's part? Because maybe he doesn't have an intention in hell of trying to knock him out. Maybe he's just going to do what he did before and be perfect for 36 minutes. It could happen. So, I mean, I just played this out. I'm glad I'm in my busy work time now. I can't think about it. I think about it too much, but
Right.
All right.
Yeah,
So,
we're going to have to make a decision by next week.
so Tom,
Well,
now
you know what? I'm going to put it all in, and
we got to save the best. We save the best here.
Computer spits out. Like right now, I'm kind of toying a little bit. I'm like, is it the game-changing power that while Fury gets sloppy in there and he gets caught, and this time he doesn't get up, or is it that he gives him a 36-minute lesson? He schools him.
So, Tom, we've had a lot of discussions and a lot of laughs about Tyson telling everybody that he jerks off 12 times a day to prepare for this one.
No, 5. I thought it was 5.
Oh,
yes,
sorry.
Yes.
I was just throwing a random number out there.
I thought it was 5. My God, now he's going to...
I don't know. I was
He's
joking.
going to be seeing a urologist after the fight.
But he one-upped.
Did that come up?
He one-upped that quote. He didn't mention masturbation at all, but he one-upped that quote. And he actually took the interviewer off guard because he said... He said somebody asked him about weathering the storm early on because Wilder's going to go for the knockout, and he said, "Oh, don't worry about it." Before that, he had talked about defense and stuff, and he's working with a guy on a lot of new defensive tactics that he hasn't used before, and he's very confident. But then he got into it with this guy about the same subject, and he said, "You know what? Nobody's got to worry about my jaw because let me tell you, I've been doing a lot of pussy licking." So my jaw is good.
I wonder what his wife thinks about all this stuff. I mean, the masturbation, now that's, and, I don't know. I mean, none of my business, but you got...
But the best part, I thought...
I'd have to think if I had a wife.
and this is just so ironic. I mean, this is just crazy ironic, but I know we've talked about this before. Just the ironic fact that Dan Raphael is in the position he is in at ESPN. He is the boxing writer, and he is as big as a house and would never last 30 seconds in a boxing ring himself, which, some people can do that. Some people, that's great, and more power to you.
There was a guy in the L.A. Herald Examiner back in the 80s, Alan Malamuth, and he was as big as just again one of those lids. I mean, I always thought because he was going toward his ringside seat that the fans on it's going to blow him away. I mean, he's going to fade away.
He reminds me of my cross country coach in high school, who was not really that fat, but he couldn't run a mile, and he's telling us to run 7 a day. So
and this guy was probably four bills. And Dan Raphael's probably 3 bills and change, isn't he?
Oh, yeah. So anyway, Dan, of course, has somebody paid off, or he talks to these people all the time so that they give him preference. Every single conference call I've ever been on, he somehow gets the first question. It's like preordained. So not only does he take the first question, he follows up with 3 or 4 and just hogs the whole first 5 minutes. But that wasn't even the part that pissed me off. First of all, he takes my first 2 questions that I was going to ask. Then he goes on later in the call, before I even get an opportunity to ask my first question, he gets to ask follow-up questions. So what does this dumbass ask? But he asked about what Tyson thinks his legacy will be like if he wins this fight. And Tyson gives one of the best answers I could ever imagine somebody given who wants to stuff Dan Raphael. He goes, well, you know what? I don't care about my legacy. I care about right here and now. People can say whatever they want to say. It's sticks and stones to me. Well, good or bad, it is sticks and stones. And I don't care what they think. And the idiot Dan Raphael keeps trying to push him like it's a fucking investigative reporter situation. Like, you really don't care? Come on! Like, you gotta care! And I'm just like, oh man, if I could reach through the phone and slap this guy and tell him to shut up, I would. Oh, But then he goes on and grabs Bob Arum and drags him into the conversation and gets him to answer the same stupid question about legacy. And it's like, who pays this guy to be such an asshole? I don't know. That's just my soapbox rant of the week, because, when a guy like that gets all that opportunity and just doesn't even really take good advantage of it and ask good questions, it's like, why does he get all the favors? He writes some good pieces here and there and everything like that, and he knows the sport and all, but let 5 other people ask a question rather than giving him 6 opportunities. Anyway, that's my piece. But let's see, what else was there discussed? There was another guy from the UK who brought up the mental health part of it. I thought was very quaint and poignant of him to kind of remind Tyson that he's a role model to a lot of people, and to get his perspective on what his message is for people dealing with mental health issues. And my thing was, I wanted to tell Tyson more than anything of asking a question. I wanted to just tell him, that last fight really put an exclamation point on your just amazing story of redemption, recovery, and resilience. It just was really everything on all those categories. It really showed a lot of people, and just that you would never give up. I had a little short statement I was going to say, and then I was going to ask the question, what do you love most about boxing? The one I always ask everybody. But I never got the chance to connect. And nobody really asked anything like that. But this guy from Britain, who's the one guy who had the British accent on the whole call, and he really brought up a great question. What would you have to say to all these people struggling? And he's basically put it to the old never give up. No matter what you're dealing with, there's always help. There's always people to go to. There's always, medical help, friends that can help you, and just tell people about it, talk about it. And 9 times out of 10, you'll be able to get over it just through that process. But he says, there is help available, and don't be afraid to admit that you need it. Because that's what gets most people, is them thinking, I'm perfect, nothing's wrong, there's nobody that can help me, I'll do it all myself. So, yeah. It is definitely an important issue, and it's like it always gets brought up around the gun thing too. Gun rights and all that. Mental health is such a big picture of that they don't talk about enough. I think it's because 10 times out of 10, these kids that shoot up the schools have health issues, mental health issues. In one case, the kid had a mental disorder. So yeah. It's definitely very important that people not only recognize the signs in other people, but, come to terms with their own psyche and say, hey, something's not right up there. I need some help. And just wouldn't trust all those fucked up medications, though. I will tell you that. If you do get help, try to stay away from some of those antidepressants, because that's one of those things that just doesn't make any sense.
I'll tell you this from experience. It's funny because I had to go to my city office today, and I went there in a very concerned, very subdued mood because I had a bad feeling. I had a phone call yesterday, like, yo, can you come in tomorrow? Why? We'll talk to you. I said, am I in trouble? No. Well, why? We'll talk to you tomorrow. You don't like that, because then I'm naturally, and you guys know me, I'm naturally high-strung, I'm naturally energetic, I'm naturally, fiery. And I've already been having a rough year as it is. So I went in there today, and my anxiety is on fire. They call me in the office, like, we're doing, everything's great, there's nothing wrong, but we need to make a change, and we're taking you off site of the client. Why? And they're saying all this stuff, and I'm like, and then they're trying to, like, you know, placate me. So now I'm miserable. I was already anxiety ridden. Now I'm miserable. When I'm talking to them, we're talking different things over, and I'm like, you know, they know I'm not happy. And so I always, when I bring my headphones to work, especially when I was at my client's office, I would call them the phones of misery. Because if I put them on, they knew I was in a bad mood. And so I put my phones on so they didn't really talk to anybody, which is not me. So as I'm leaving, you know, I made a Facebook post. And I said, man, and we said it earlier, if I had a gallon of anthrax, I'd drink it right now. And then, I mean, I'm getting calls from HR. They're like, oh my God, are you okay? Do you need mental health? Do you need... And I was telling these people, I said, here's what you got to understand about a guy like me. I am naturally worked up. I need to unwind. Some people sit on the train going home and they decompress. I don't. I get more wound up. And now you're taking my release away from me. And I'm like, and now you're putting me into a situation. Now, 4 years ago when we moved down there on a Monday, Vinny died on Sunday. So I was already, you know, unhappy. And then that exacerbated it to the point where they had to put me on anxiety medicine and antidepressants.
Mm-hmm.
I don't take medication very well. There were days I would wake up and I'd walk face first into a wall. I had to be driven to the train station because I could not drive. And I was telling them at work today, I said, I don't take medication very well. As we said last month, when I was going to Hank's funeral, you know, which has been really weighing on my mind the last few weeks, that morning I was so anxiety-ridden, I was going to take something. But I'm like, now I wouldn't be able to drive. I would be so zonked out of my mind. So I told him, I said 4 years ago when I was in this office every day, I said, yeah, I was in here because basically I was medicated out of my mind. And I didn't enjoy that. It took me away from being me. Was I still there? In theory. But I was definitely a toned-down version of myself. I wasn't the happy-go-lucky, goofy, sarcastic, whatever you want to call me guy. I was definitely medicated. And that's something I never want to go through again.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, exercise is a big part of it. And I think, you know, getting back sort of along the lines of the Tyson thing, too, I think that's really what pulled him out of the abyss, because he was doing badly. I mean, it was no joke how badly he was doing. He was fat, out of shape. Never would have thought he could have ever even boxed again, never mind come back and done what he's done. Right. I mean, that's just naturally inspiring what he did with it. And then on top of all that, to give all the money that he made to charity. It's like, who does that?
Where my office originally was when I first took this job was, you know, in suburbs of Philadelphia, only 3 miles from where I grew up. Right? And there was LA Fitness there. And because when I first started going to LA Fitness, I was going with a friend of mine about a mile from the Christmas tree lot. And I was going with him because I was unemployed at the time and I wanted something to do and something social. You know, I could go out and I could see people, I could make some new friends. And I used to always talk to the one salesman there who was friends with Danny Garcia, of all people. And he would always say, when you going to sign up? When you going to sign up? I'm like, well, Lewis, let me see if I can start my job first, see where I'm going to be located. That makes it also make sense. I get my job. I come to find out it's literally a half a mile from an LA Fitness. I'm like, great, I can go after work. But I said, I have to go sign up the other one because I gave Lewis my word that he would get the sale. So I went there for, 2 years, 2.5 years, and great. Everything's going great. And then, like, we get out into the city, and it's like a disaster for me. I'm like, I'm leaving work, and I'm getting on the train, and I'm so wound up, and I had a stressful day, and I have no release. People decompress on that. They sit there, they look at their phones, they listen to music, they read the paper, they talk to other people, and they relax. I don't. And I wind up even more. And the only relief I would have was a lot of nights. That's when Amy first started coming over and training with me. So at least I had that maybe 1 or 2 nights a week. It's nothing else. And then I scored this thing with the client, which was only 2 miles from my original office, right about 2 miles from the gym. And every day I leave work and I go down there, and some days I run, some days I box, some days I lift, but every day I really just go full throttle. And when I leave, I'm done. I'm like, I'm finally calm. Mm-hmm. So now I'm worried, like, what, do they want to put me on something again? What, do they want to do this with me? No, you can't take me away from being me.
All right. Yeah, I've been taking all the supplements and everything, keeping healthy and getting exercise outside and doing the wood thing, but not eating as healthy as I could and not doing enough to get back into the training. So I'm definitely going to change that real soon. And next week we have a guest who's going to help out in that, because he's trying to get me to do the Masters now. One of my old fighters from Norwich that we had on, Michael Reyes. So he's committed to next week. He's got a new charity he's working with, and he wants to talk about that. And he's also been working with some of the Masters boxers, and they're all over New England, and it's getting big. It's also translating over to the Battle of the Badges too. I was very pleasantly surprised to see our buddy there, McGuire. I don't know why I can't think of his first name. From the FDNY boxing team, Bobby McGuire. He's got the national tournament now for the Battle of the Badges coming to Madison Square Garden next year, or later this year, I think. So that'll be a hell of an event, and we'll definitely have to try to get him back on before that happens. So yeah, I'd definitely like to get involved in that kind of stuff. That really was the last time watching those fights there that I really thought about it, going into boxing. I really just wanted to do the one MMA amateur fight and then see what happens. Maybe do 3 or 4, 5 maybe.
The clock is ticking, Rich.
Yeah, and like, you know, my cutoff has always been 45. If I get to 45, it's never happening. So, you know, the big hurdle has always been to get in shape first. And, I'm in shape as far as I can lift shit and I can move around good, but I'm not in cardio shape. I got to be in cardio shape. I got to have the weight off. And I really have to crack down. Time is running out. The 2020 is the year. It's fight this year or bust.
Yeah, as Rich Ace Franklin, our former UFC middleweight champ, said, being in shape is one thing.
Yeah. But
being in fight shape is an entirely different animal.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the truth.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, on that note, until next week.
All right, let's
catch you later. And
enjoy the fights.
Talk to my
get
buddy.
those predictions, Tony.
I'll send you guys some photos from Lock Haven.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Look forward to it.
That'll help too.
Right.
Get your blood flowing in a good way, and talk to all your buddies back there.
Yeah, exactly.
Network.
Yeah.
All right, bud. Thanks for stopping by.
All right. We'll talk to you guys next week.
Adios.